discussion, panel discussions. The chairpersons are ready.
My name, I've been introduced a number of times, but I would prefer to introduce myself. Officially, my name is Boy Ivan, and I am a New Generation Leaders Fellow at the Great Lakes Institute for Strategic Studies. I am a lawyer by profession. I am former guild president of Makerere University. So I will begin with canteen tea from Bogema. The Honorable Anna Deke raised serious issues about youth participation, about accountability. I want you to address one thing generally about the guild elections. Where does this money come from? And what are the interests of the monies that come to the candidates in guild elections? Because to me it is important for everyone here to understand those critical issues.
Thank you very much, moderator. My name is Atit Newman, and I'm the guild president of Bogema University. Away from that, I think I have my contender. Is he still around? I think we are in the same campaigns of Uganda National Students Association, and we are on the same position contesting for speakership.
You have been in these youth campaigns. You have used money. Where does this money come from? And if the money comes from external sources, what do they expect from you? Because we are dealing with a particular topic that concerns the growing influence of money on students in electoral politics. And as you, with your experience, surely they would want to know your experiences, and probably we shall address things that deal with how to deal with the vice.
When you are contesting, take an example using my experience. First of all, you get back on the drawing board to how you can raise finances towards putting up a very successful guild campaign that can, take you at the end leap of victory. One, you look at your family background, and for many candidates, they have not had a very good background, but instead they have had maybe ideas for which they stand for towards the very same position they are contesting for. Then, for them, it is when you move, then other external sponsors will come in. Take an example, political parties will come in to sponsor, and you will find when one candidate is fetching money from different political parties in some instances. Secondly, I think people will come in. Business people will come in, but they will also have to come in with strings attached. That is once you've taken it.
So what are some of those strings that come with from the business people? Because you've talked about political parties, you've talked about personal finances that you mobilize as a candidate from maybe your savings, but you've also talked about business people. What are the interests of these business people and the political parties in the students' arena politics?
Thank you. I think the business community comes in for if they see skills of where they can also make business. When you are a guild president, take an example. We have freshers ball. We have different dinners we organize at campus. We have all those. So if they fit in such, then they will also have to invest in a certain candidate. And I think I remember I didn't talk about that. Political parties, or their strings, I don't know, they are much more attached. That they will have to make sure that they get everything they invested in you. That is, if you are there.
How?
I mean, they will always come in to influence decisions in the guild government itself. In some instances, where there will be maybe policies that will need to, go by with the government side. They will always come in to influence such. Yes. Then we have political predators. Political predators, they are always around, seeing which candidate is better than the other. If we invest in this, will we get what exactly we are supposed? No. I think the other one will do us better. Let's go with the other one. So such games will always be around the students' guild elections to bend low the students while they are in government. And you realize that even when you had the idea of serving the students, at the end, all these streams that have come along from different people who have facilitated your campaign, they will always come back and they will always pull you back when you are serving your government.
Thank you so much. I believe it is a fruitful discussion. I want to turn out to my brother next to me on my right. You have been through guild politics, and you have contested or you have supported those who have contested. You have seen the nitty-gritties of a campaign, what takes to win and lose. In 3 minutes, what influence does finances or monies have on a guild election? All a win, all a loss to that. In other words, in your opinion, what influence do you think the monies have?
Thank you. I'm Oromo John from International University of East Africa, Speaker, Law Society, International University of East Africa. I want to differ from what Honorable Adeka was saying. When she was running for guild, it only cost 100 Uganda shillings to run a campaign. Today, the story totally is a different thing. That brings me to the conclusion that today, it's actually doubtable when she said that the guild president of Makerere ran without money. It's impossible to win an election without money. We need to draw that line clearly. Ladies and gentlemen, if you come from a private university like I come from, it's usually run like you run a nation. A withhold standards are put in place so that certain people don't attain the political power or influence in the leadership. For instance, registration fee still exists. Can you register without money? Where I come from, it costs $300 to register for a guild presidency, which is equivalent of 1,700,000 Uganda shillings. That is for a student. So how do you say that money cannot play a role in a political race in the country? What we need to understand is this. The issue is that, yes, it's undoubtable that with these measurements, youth are not going to be able to attain leadership role. But we as youth, to be drawing the real truth is that many of us have lost faith in what you call voting. If someone said that if voting had a reason or had a fruitful bearing, we would not be voting. Why do you go to the constituencies and they ask you for money? Because the leaders usually go to those places only when they are campaigning. So it is better for that the people come to understand that it's better for you to receive that 50,000 Uganda shilling. You see that person for the first time, and for the next time you see them again when they are campaigning again. The question is that people have lost faith in what you call voting.
Are you trying to tell me that the students in your university, in your observation, have lost trust in voting, and therefore the increased desire for money as a tool to enforce guild election.
We were talking about the measurements put in place to hold some people captive, not to hold that. Okay, let's go to the question of whether the students look at money or they invest in the certain political leaders who gain posts. Yes, like for instance, where I come from, we come from International University of Africa, people come from across East African countries, people have associations. So every association, which people will call political parties, would front their candidate. When they front the candidate, there's a strings attached. Most of the time, they will pay the cost that it will take to be in the office. What are the costs? The cost is that they will want people in the cabinet. They will want that if there are decisions to be taken in the university policies, the decisions are favoring them. Just like how you run a national.
In the desire for these associations to push for their people, they invest in those finances.
Very much.
In your opinion,
yes, please.
How do you rate the influence of the finances they push in, either to a loss or to a win of any kind?
The rating is that it usually stands at almost 88% for a gentleman who is fronted in putting more money to win an election.
So, in short, it is highly likely that if you don't have money, you will have a loss. And if you have the money, you will have a win.
Definitely.
Thank you so much. I am equally learning as much as you are learning about the analysis of my brother Oromo John from International University of East Africa. Having exhausted the time, I will turn to a person I know personally, but of whom I am not going to excuse with probing about the influence of money in guild politics. And more so, I am going to deal with the issue of accountability. Having spent 3 years in the university, Makerere University, being a law student to that, and being an active member in the recently concluded guild elections, I'll ask you, what is your opinion about accountability? Students' accountability, student service, all leaders' accountability to the people.
First of all, to me, before I go further, I would like to disagree with one of the panelists who said that money, without money, you cannot win a guild election. I think it depends on what kind of money are we quantifying exactly. There is money that you need for basic things, yes, and then there is this overly money where you have enough money to bribe an entire class. I think those are two different things. I think in every guild election there should be that basic money. Of course, the basics are you must cater for the people who are going to be in your procession. You know, you cannot move people from 5 to 9 without providing for them water. You must have a band. It's like 300,000 for you to motivate them to walk around. You must have a PA so that you can address the people in the different hostels. Those are the basics. Without those basics, you cannot run a guild election. You know, you have to have money for publicity. It requires airtime for you to have MVs and put your message out there across, because the youth are using social media. So what money are we talking about exactly? Are we looking at the voter bribery, or are we looking at the basics that we need for a new delay? I think we need to answer that. Accountability versus monetarization. In my experience of running a campaign, usually the leader that comes from nothing, that has struggled, at least I like to believe, okay, that's what I used to believe, that usually the leader who was fundraised for by friends and relatives. I'll tell you that before this election, there was an election, the former guild president, actually, the boys in his hall gathered money and contributed to his campaign. But still, his leadership was lacking. I think, and yet, the one in my first year got monies from, okay, by the time he got into the guild, the office, he had a large amount of debt and he performed quite better. I don't think there is really a direct relationship between accountability and monetarization. I think it goes down to someone's character at the end of the day. Who you are as a person. We have seen guild leaders who they come from wealthy families. I think money was not an issue, but they have still been lacking in their leadership. So I don't think there's a direct relationship between the two. I think what we miss as young people is we see someone coming out of the blue and we don't take time to do a background check. There are guild leaders who have had criminal records, and it is on record that this person swindled money in a certain office before they became guild leaders, and people have gone ahead to vote them. I think that says something about the voter. And these things have been put out there. This person is like this person is like this, they have done this, and yet you go ahead to vote them. So I think even us as young people must go back and look. Have I really scrutinized this person? Where is this person from? Who is he? I'll tell you the campaign that I ran recently, and the reason why he excelled as he did and later on became guild president is because people knew who he was. He's the kind of person who would sit in the dining tables with people. When big issues came up, he would be the first run to the streets and say, no, this is wrong. And that is why in our election, money was not the issue. The issue for us was social capital. Who knows you? What has been your relevance through the guild politics? Who are you as a person? People knew him as a person of integrity. That's why they trusted him with their vote. And they hope that he will perform. And even if he doesn't perform, they feel like he's the kind of person they can take to the side and see that, you know, you're doing wrong and we're going to beat you. Yeah, so I think character above all is what matters.
Thank you so much. What influence do you think the guild electoral process and the monetization and all the circus that evolves around it have an effect on the leaders that proceed to the national level?
Thank you, Ivan. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm called Shabaj and I'm from IUIU Kamuja. Ivan, I would love to set something straight, that whether the money is for bribery or the money is for facilitating the daily activities that go on while the campaigns are going on, it's still money in elections. That there is what political scientists have started calling economic leftists. I think the fact that you still have to facilitate people in a level so low as university, the fact that you have to facilitate those people, it chases away the potential candidates if they do not have the money. Because if I know that I won't afford the 7 to 8 million that Mr. Bowe paid, I don't think I can stand. I can, because that's the standard. If he's saying that it's this amount of money, if going to your question, what we have at university is what we push, the mainstream politics. We had Anne, and now she's representing the youth. We had you are tempted to represent, and I think being a politician, you keep trying. if we don't come together as youth, and we keep saying every time that we are the majority, and yet we are doing nothing. It's not even about standing. When you say that you don't have the money to fund the campaigns, I think that's not an excuse big enough. We all know Sebastian Kurz, the Austrian Prime Minister. He became a Prime Minister when he was 31. Now, part of how they raised the funds is they started an online donor campaign. And young people started contributing money online for a young person to stand and represent them. He's the youngest representative in European politics, and as far as most of leadership is concerned. So if we don't own this and we keep talking about the money, we do not need the money to rally each other. We have phones, it just takes 500. It's money, yes, but it's not as much as the 100 million that people use billions to run campaigns as MPs. So if we don't put our voices together and we say, this is enough, we do not need the money, we need each other. So let's start something. The fact is that the concept of money in world politics is here already. We might not do anything to stop that, but we can cap it down. For example, when Bill Clinton spent relatively lesser money, and then Bush came and go, and they spent a high amount, 300 billion. So they say, why don't we look at the concept of donor funding? At least you put something legal in place that makes sure that candidates disclose the source of their
Are you trying to slip into the question for the next colleague of yours?
Sorry,
no, it's okay.
Whatever the case, we need to start supporting our colleagues. If Anne is standing as president, and we know that she has really the potential, let us start something. Online, we are able to fund that campaign. In consequence, we shall have to own it as ours. That is how those countries have political parties that own for centuries. Because they own them there as theirs. If we don't start something of that sort, that our leaders are accountable and on party tickets, that we feel we have established, then we shall keep on deliberating every day and come up with
So, are you of the view, are you of the view that we cannot do away with money in leadership?
No, we can't.
But it's how we get it and how it influences our decisions that makes sense at the end of the day.
Can I give you 2 examples to
Yes.
answer that question? In India, they have a concept of under-the-table money.
Yes.
Which politicians must use to facilitate their campaigns, because what the country's law provide as ways of funding their campaigns cannot give them enough money. And then the second example is Brazil, where after Dilma Rousseff's campaign in 2010, CNN conducted a report, and they concluded that there must be ways of identifying sources. So we have the money concept in politics already.
Okay.
We cannot go away with that. But what I want us to do is establish ways of collecting money that makes our leaders accountable for us.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure listening from you. Now, Mr. Osman, it is an issue we have at hand. We can either handle it, tackle it, or we are swallowed in it. In your opinion, what should the university administration do to limit exorbitant campaign financing in the students' electoral politics, but also make sure that there is participation?
Fellow colleagues at this table, thank you very much for coming. Before I start the question, Honorable Gowa, I'm actually delighted to be with you here. I supported you by osmosis, though I was at the Kampala University. I supported you. My name is Wikumbi Asman. I am the good president of Kampala University. Now, to become a good president of Kampala University main campus, you campaign in 6 campuses in Uganda and well-distributed campuses Jinja, Masaka campus, Luero campus, and then you come for this thing in the town. I know what we are talking about. Maybe I did not understand the word commercialization, but if I understand it well, then, Madam, I disagree with you. Because whether airtime, whether bribing for us to commercialize. Now, to be direct, because of the time of the question, I think the university,
I am sorry for interjecting, but you bring in a quite unique experience. So, in your own struggles in campaigning in 6 campuses, how do you think the administration would have helped cut down your expenses? Because to me, that is abnormal.
Thank you very much. There is this first fee called the nomination fee. The university will start from there. If it really needs us to cut down our expenses, let them eliminate nomination fee. But let me tell you, there is nothing that is so paramount in this issue than hope and fear for loss. The moment you put in your nomination fee, the demon will automatically grab your head. You must spend, whether you like it or you don't. Then we are having some universities have faculties, some universities have schools. I think the administration can think of electoral colleges. Because if it is campaigning person to person, those people have to understand you both mentally and in terms of pocket. But if you are talking about, like for example, if you have electoral colleges, and we say like, in the School of Computer Science, only the class coordinators vote, we can cut down the expense. Because the scope of our campaigns narrows. So universities can think about that. But if you are still in this general campaign, we must spend. So if we can come up with colleges, for example, like that, and we minimize the scope. Because what brings in expenses is the scope of your the scope of your campaign. Let the administrators do not participate in these elections. This system of mine is saying that it is still true that people with a weak background still their administration means something. It is really true, I believe it, because they were not able to corrupt it after giving the office. That's why their works are somehow limited. Because as you are looking for money to campaign, do what? You focus on that. You forget that there are some people officials in office to come in also to do what? When you come as the leader, they have to oppose you somewhere, somehow. That makes your leadership something to go to run, something like, they fight. You understand?
Thank you so much. Quite interesting views and ideas. All what we do there after a campaign should be in position to help us build a brand, but also not to stop right there, but also to shoot to the national arena. For we are the generation. There is nothing like the future is tomorrow. The future is today, my friends. I want to implore you to get interested, but also be selfish as a young generation. I'll conclude by saying does not help and it's very useless to be youthful. We also have to be useful for God and my country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Priska Amomi. I'm former group president UCU. I handed over just in 2017. Last year I graduated in accounting and finance, a first class by the way. And that's unique because we ran a government at the same time we had academics to handle and we managed to jump both. I'm very happy to have you all here. You're all very welcome. I currently work at Parliament, one of the offices, and I'm very pleased to be welcomed back. Does your university have a legal framework that regulates campaign spending during the elections? Is there a legal framework in place? It's either yes. If it's there, you could tell us about it. If it's not there, you could let us know about that as well.
Thank you very much. I'm Farid from Islamic University in Uganda, Kampala campus, Chibudu. The university does not have a legal framework that stops or that has stipulated amount of money that someone must spend in running for any elective position. But the university designed a system in it that this, before anyone comes for that position, you already know the capability of that person. You cannot stand for leadership in IU because before students know you. So by that, it helps to reduce on the commercialization of politics. It helps to reduce on the so much money used in the process because these people already know you. We have a saying this side that before you contest, that is when you show your true character as a leader of any other person. So the cosmetic politics, or that during the campaigning time that you're going to tell us that you can do this, and yet when you did have power, you didn't even manage to do the smallest or the simplest, then you do not appeal to us as being the most capable leader. So the norms, the culture that is within the university is what bounds or is what stops people from spending so much in elections. And remember that we cannot do away with money in politics because the only way we're supposed to decommercialize politics is to change the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement, we cannot change the activity, but we're supposed to change the rules of engagement. How do we, or what are the mechanisms that we follow as we go into elections, as we go into politicking, as we go into campaigns? These are the only better ways, or these are the only principles that are going to help to reduce on the increase, or this is the process, or this is what we have to do to reduce on the campaigns. Because people have to at times disclose their sources of funds. Because in any way, I want, and I really die to be a good president of per se IU. I want to rob, and you're not going to know my source of fund because you do not ask who are the donors or where do I get my money. So in this case, you're supposed to disclose your source of fund. If it is your parents, if you have a business, if you have the other side, then you understand that you have a business worth 10 million and you cannot draw out of it 20 million that you've used in the campaigns. So we have to put a question mark onto that. If you spend really 20 million and your business, as you say, was your source of fund, has or is worth 10 million, then the university developed an art of transparency within us. That you become too transparent to those that are electing you because you speak out what you can do and leave what you cannot. That you cannot is what the students look at and say that if he has spoken out what he can do, then you can push a little step further to see that he can try to lobby for that he cannot, to see that he also achieve it in the end. Then let's also think of the penalties, because I think that if we set up rules that at least in IU or in Makere or in Deji, someone must not use more than 20 million per se in elections. So if you use more than that, then let's look at a penalty. Let's look at fines to such a position, because we are grooming national leaders. What we learn out of university is what we're going to apply. If I've been exposed to so much money, if I won my guild position or my GRS position by spilling so much money over people, it is not going to change when I choose to aspire to national politics. So let's look at as youth, let's look at aspiring to have that. We represent ourselves in the bigger house, that is the parliament, or in our simple houses, to see that politics is not commercialized so much, that even when it is, we have penalties for those, just like it is in other countries like the UK and US. You know, they have a specific amount of money that they expect candidates to use in the whole electoral process. Thank you.
I feel delighted when people laugh about Chamo. But for your information, I'm a first year student. What I can really tell you that Chambogo University has no clear legal framework system which can restrict candidates on their armaments. But what I can credit it for is that I credit the precurrent guild council, which reduced the nomination fee from 700,000 to 500,000, which can cater for almost each and everybody. But regarding this issue, I have a dream. The dream is very simple. I have a dream that in Uganda, the Ugandans of today, and that's you, I have a dream that people will vote leaders because of competence, not because of money. And how does it start? The only solution towards this is the way how I'm going to say it. Is sensitizing people what is leadership. Today, if somebody goes to campaign for guild presidents, some people will ask you, if I vote you, what will I get? You give me 2,000, I buy airtime, I will come and vote you. Send me transport of 3,000, I will come and vote you. But inside their souls and their minds, they don't know what leadership is. What should be done to sensitize people about what leadership is? It starts with us. Let us tell our own people to vote competence and capability, not money. Other than that, I'm telling you, commercialized politics here in Uganda will never end. Actually, let me tell you something. I was shocked today when the current guild president, Amanya Bros of UCU, stood with his two legs and said that let us eradicate commercialized politics. Yet I was there, me myself, he paid me, he brought even a limousine, the opponent brought a hammer, he even paid each and everybody 20,000 each on his day for election. Ladies and gentlemen, they call me Mr. Realistic. Let us try to be realistic. For your information, there is...
Let's have some order, please. Let him submit.
For your information, the NRM chapter Chambogo University of recent received 30 million. Me myself, I ate 20,000 on the NRM. But, honestly, the candidate of NRM, was he the right leader of Chambo? No, he wasn't. Thank you very much.
Brian, from UCU, does UCU have a legal framework that regulates campaign spending during youth elections?
My name is Brian Trinawe, and I'm the guild speaker of UCU by grace of God. We come here to talk about very many factors, and I think they shouldn't be taken lightly because at the end of the day they affect the nation and Africa as a continent, because these are the problems that have been affecting us now and then. So if I see someone take a slight or pragmatic view of these issues, then I feel disappointed in the panels that we are bringing. Nevertheless, I would not go into critiquing the panelists, but I would go directly to maybe the misguidance that is still in the discussion. I do not think that when we talk about commercialization of politics, then we should talk about every little penny we spend in a campaign. I think we should be looking at, is it worth spending what you have spent? That is number one. But ideally, I would use the Blackstone dictionary, which has taken judicial notice in courts, to define what commercialization of politics commercialization is. Commercialization is the process of managing and running something principally for financial gain. So if we take that definition, then I think we would be looking at a person as a guild official who comes in office looking at the future benefit. Of course, yes, it influences the investment in the campaign, but principally, we should not look at the investments in the campaign thinking it's commercialization of politics. I think we lose the point. Nevertheless, my brothers from other universities have continuously said that this and this, the small sweets we give out, that I think is principally allowed. Nevertheless, what you have spent should be the one that we are critiquing. And I think other universities plus the Makerere University and everyone will take notes from my discussion and implement whatever we are going to talk about so that you become a center of excellence in the heart of maybe in the heart of one again? Yes.
Please let the speaker proceed, please. Even as you are.
Yes, so I think if they do not take lessons, then other universities can take them because we have very many recommendations. Now, first, to go to the subject matter as I've been asked to do, they asked me to elaborate whether UCU has a policy that governs or looks at electoral expenditure. Now, I do not know, but I think UCU is one of the best universities in management of the guild. Now, let me show you why. And that question I will answer it, and I do not think there is anyone who will object. And the moderator herself is the former president. Now, UCU has a policy of expenditure. That is where we start from. The UCU guild president that comes into office has to submit a financial report of expenditure and all other candidates to the dean of students before even swearing in. Now, the expenditure bit part of it says that you should not spend more than 2 million in an election. I do not know whether Mr. Amanya paying you, he spent, I do not know, but I think then he spent 2 million paying you. But he did not go exceeding 2 million. That is one. But number two, the constitution of the Uganda Christian University Guild, as established, states that you should not receive any financial contribution.
Friends, let's listen because we're trying to draw parallels with different institutions and see what works and how we can perhaps employ it in our respective universities. So let's listen to what he has to say about what is present.
Yes, thank you so much, Madam Moderator. But the Guild constitution of the mighty Uganda Christian University states that no one should receive any financial contribution from a political party. Now, that might seem as undermining of multi-party democracy. Nevertheless, it allows individual merit to prevail. It allows individual merit to prevail in the institution. Because the expenditure, of course, no political party in Uganda will give a guild contestant less than 1 million. Now, if our expenditure should not go beyond 2 million, then why should you then allow external funding into a guild election? And nevertheless, the guild budget itself provides a little contribution to the campaign of presidency. That is another thing. Then I have heard everyone complain about nomination forms. Speaking of nomination forms, let me bring it to the right of you gallant gentlemen and ladies that the UCU Guild, you running for presidency, you have to only pay 80,000 shillings. I think you should clap for that. I think, yes, because I do not have so much time, maybe I would write a paper. I would write a paper and I send it to the president-elect of Makerere Universities and others for implementation of most of the things that are in UC. Now, what should be done is the question. I think, highly, what should be done is looking at the conviction of leadership. If you have a conviction of leadership and you think you are inspired, and we know that leadership comes from God, you're inspired spiritually and you're going to serve, then why should you first look at the money bit of it? That is one. Allow me go in my concluding remarks. Now my concluding remarks is what should be done is what is done at Uganda Christian University. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Because we are learning from one another, and if you're going to celebrate it to someone, you won't first throw it upon them. Let's just note that. And let's be respectful as we submit. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kukunda Ak Solomon, a former GRRC and the University Kampala campus, and a vice aspirant 2019-2020. At Ndeja University, first of all, we have guidelines. I will not call it a legal framework, but we have guidelines that are followed by the Electoral Commission and the caretaker government, the overseer of the elections. Any aspirant for the post of guild president must have completed 100% of the school, of the faculty or university tuition. You can clap for that, please. And the vice guild aspirant must have completed too the 100% school tuition. On addition to that, the aspirant on the post of guild president pays 450,000 shillings. And the vice guild president pays 350,000 shillings. And in
We are not your presence in this room. Okay, we are at the university here, so let's listen and let him. Thank you.
so my say on this is straight. I draw back to character of the candidate vying for any position. Character is key. Because there is no way we say we are going to curb commercializing politics without getting back to the character of the aspirant. If the character is interested in an office for commercial gains, that person will do whatever it takes. And I would like to inform you that at my campus, they don't limit any money received from any source. For example, political parties can invest in, business people can invest in. You can even take part of your land and sell it and engage in elections. No one cares. Any amount you are allowed. But then we get back to the question, what have you come for? Have you come to serve, or you have come to set up a business amidst a university that is meant to show people guidance, and you must be the steering factor for student leadership and guidance. So you have to get back to the character of someone who is vying for a position. What have you come to do? Otherwise, facilitation and giving people in your team facilities what they need is okay, but where is the money going and what is the money for? That's the question. Character. And one of the things we can do to curb this is to make candidates declare their sources of money, as mentioned earlier. Where is the money coming from? Because we'll end up falling into a very deep ditch. Someone will get money from somewhere no one understands, and money will bring up problems. Someone can even swindle. In cases of people who work in companies, you can decide to swindle money or embezzle money in any company. Then you come to stand out or vie for a position. Then I think those are areas to be enlightened in order for this to be covered. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Solomon. Thanks for all. It's okay. So, you know what I'm thinking? that regulation somehow kicks out someone from protesting, because if I need first of all 2 million before even anything, yeah, you see as a policy at 50%. Once you're reduced at 50%, that's half. That's like 1.5 million, half of 3 million. You can run. So did you think that 100% is a limitation, or you think it's something which can keep going on?
Now, when we get back to my campus, it's a policy that we as the Protestants and students, we have no say over. So when they wake up and say that that's the policy that is being followed, we have no say about it. But as you have said, that if one is coming from low grades, selling tomatoes to raise the standards, and wants this position, it's quite unfair and unfortunate, but the university will not look into that. However, that person can go back and to the drawing board and look into other positions he can manage and start from there. But if someone is seeing himself in having ability to take over such an office, we have to look into that, because for my campus, it's their policy. We have no say over it, but it's sometimes to some people unfair. I want us to agree on that.
Thank you so much, Solomon. Would like to inform us on something.
Does not charge any fee. But I would like to further ask a question to the current speaker. Does it anyway account to your knowledge that if you say that the university set a policy and we have no say, then what is the implication of what is the use of the guild representative to set policies in the university?
Thank you very much. So Solomon, I'd like to just encourage you. That's why we are here, by the way, as young people. Whenever we see things which are irregular, we're supposed to be able to provide solutions, or at least make an effort to do that. So just as you have recommended, it's something you can begin thinking about back at campus. Actually, you've had this, and it's something you can see how to start engaging management on, so that everyone has an equal ground of contesting. Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next person.
My name is Davis from University of Chisui, and I'm the former ambassador of University of Chisui. Most of you know it as Mr. University of Chisui. I'm so privileged to be here, and this is a great opportunity that we are on such a great platform of we, the youth, in empowering all leadership. Yes, I'll begin off by the framework that the institution has. I've been in the university, and it has been having some dynamics and change. So for the last elections we had to pay 300,000 for someone to come in for new presidency. But we have always been having a debate within the institution through the GRCs that there are people who have the capability, but they cannot make it to the finances that they need. So the EC and the caretaking government that we are having this time around as we are heading into the elections that we're going to be having a few weeks from now, they're deciding on how best they can give every person an opportunity to come on the platform whereby they can represent out their feelings of leadership. Because our university, when you look at the way it does everything, the caretaking government works together with the EC. And of course, they will look at your historical background within the institution. And at our university, of course, it's a university for all. We believe in each generational person who's there. So we normally don't look at the issue of money maybe to come in for guild presidency. But the students, I'm very proud of them. Because in the recent elections we had, the president that is soon handing over, he came through because of socialization, because of his way of life at the institution. So it wasn't all about money. The fact is that I was behind the team, but I never tested any man of that leader. So it means that this time around, we as the growing Africans, we have to look at giving a hand to each and every person who has the capability. Of course, we need money in the political sector, but we have to make sure that we don't overlook at money as the main issue. We have to look at the courage that the person is having, the capability, the perspective that person is having for leadership. So I'll end by looking at the way out of that. I believe the institutions have to look at the capability, the participation levels of the students in the university, because there are some people who are just influenced and they're like, you can take it, you can make it, but they haven't been participating maybe in the front of the institution. So I believe the students have to have that mandate. They have to stand in for their rights to vote for that person they love, that person who's ready to have a heart of them. Because at the end of it all, money is not everything. We just need justice. We have to stand on the rights. We as leaders, we're not supposed to come in as commercialized leaders, but we have to come in as people who are ready to work for the students, for the goodness of the students, and for the betterment of them. So even as I come into this, the administration should be supportive to each and every capable leader who has a chance to come on the platform. We are not supposed to be having siding administration whereby we are going to stand with someone, be behind someone, but we have to give an opportunity to each and every person. I'm a humanitarian activist. I love youth. I love people. So I believe every person who is in this hall tonight, you have the capability, and if you have that chance, take on the opportunity. The people are going to be with you, because I believe when you look at the leadership that we are heading on to, we are looking at the leadership of participative leaders of integrity, and leaders of moral ethics in this environment. Thank you very much.
Clark International University is one of the universities that has already been doing what is called decommercialization. I want to say this because when you look at the Clark International University, it is one of the universities that have a value. It has a motto that talk about lead, innovate, and transform. And therefore, this university is already working on the leadership, which we have to praise, because I quoted one of the statements that said, leaders are not born, but leaders are made. So leadership is something that we can make. Therefore, Clark International University has been doing this. So to give you some experience from the Guild leadership in Clark International University, let me highlight the few things, please. One, we have a framework, and the framework of Clark International University is all the aspirants from second year and third year. There is no any limitation in Clark International University. That means they are given a chance to all the students to participate in leadership so that they are able to give their skill in leadership. That is one thing that is in place. For any presidential candidate, we have a system that every presidential candidate has to pay a nomination fee of 100.
Discussants, they highlighted the point of mindset change in the students and also the youth out there. It's all about mindset, and everyone kept on emphasizing the point of sensitization. If you can go out there and be the agents of change and sensitize people on what they should vote for, on the things they should look out for in a candidate, as opposed to the things that they give them, such as money and all these other benefits they give them. You may not have a lot of money, but have the best strategy, you can win an election. So that should be something that should go out there, that it's about the strategy you use. If you're smart enough, you can win without even putting a lot of money. It's very possible. We've done that and we've won elections. So thank you very much for being a great audience. Thank you very much, my dear discussants. Let's have a round of applause for them.
That leaders are made, leaders are not born, which is very wrong. Leaders are born. But when you sleep on your own leadership, if we study history very well, in the history of humanity, we have realized that money has played a detrimental role in the human history.
Pierre Lumumba said, the people without idea are the ones in power. Then the ones who have the ideas are seated down. However, it's so painful that, fellow Ugandans, when time for elections come, the people with ideas still vote people without ideas. Very painful.
So please, Mr. Henry Mutuzi, we are so disappointed for bringing such a person. She's good, I've met her several times, but I'm quite disappointed because she should have been part of us till the end of the program. She has not heard from any panelists. She's not around even up to now. And now you wonder why you paid her, because I believe you paid them and then they just...
The people who bring out the voices of the entire institutions into the contest of the leadership. Two, I wish to inform the gathering that life is what you make, and if nature dictates, even a woman can stand as a man and urinate.
Allow me to invite Hatondi Fiona Valeria. She is a project officer with ACFIM. Let's put our hands together for her to come and run us down the action points for policy reforms. What's important is that ACFIM gathers these views and doesn't keep them to themselves. They share with other MPs, with other policymakers.
Great to have you here. I'm only going to take 5 minutes of your time because I'm pretty sure we're all exhausted from all of this. So I'm going to be presenting about the action points that I have deduced from the discussions that we've been having, especially for panel 2, where we're looking at what must be done to rectify the reality of unregulated money in student politics. And from what I've deduced and collected, firstly, we opined that we're looking at introducing regulatory reforms in guild constitutions, and these provisions should be for declaration of sources of funding for candidates that are participating in the guild elections, submitting of financial reports after campaigns to a respective office of administration at a respective university, and arriving at practical campaign spending limits, where we deduce what exactly amounts to practical spending for a guild candidate and what amounts to excess spending. And we also looked at setting of nomination fees at amounts that reflect the socio-economic realities of youth in tertiary institutions. I've seen I call them highly ridiculous amounts, like a $300 fee for guild presidential nomination fees. And but also we weren't just looking at policy reforms. We also looked at reforms that are targeting behavioral change amongst us. That is what I call the Bugatti culture, the culture that for someone to stand and for someone to be a candidate that you vote for, they must be paying for something in one way or the other. Maybe a drink, maybe something to eat, maybe transport, maybe money. And that is the Bugatti culture that we we all want to tear down, to establish a kind of culture where we look at the ideal character and the kind of leaders that we need. What should they be espousing? What ideologies, what ideas, what kind of persona should they be having? And then we looked at, I think Krista Amongin brought it out really well. Having a good strategy when it comes to your campaigns, other than founding it on a money bonanza kind of thing. So we looked at having more female participation in top leadership positions at our universities. And I'm thinking that we could have deliberate reforms and deliberate efforts at political party faction level and just within us in our faculties, where we enable women to stand up and speak, where we create the kind of environment where their voices can be heard. It's hard just me for my voice to be heard because we as youths come to a point where no amount of money can buy what we think is a noble cause for us. How do we come to a point where our ideas, the ideas we say we will die for, the ideas that we say mean so much to us, why do they have a price? And if we have the power to say no or yes to something, why not use it? Like Mr. Odomko said, the thing is about turning up. Half the time, the reason as to why we do not take up the opportunities before.
We want to thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day that you have given us. Our brothers and sisters from different universities who are going now, give them your traveling mercies, that they make it their will, and we may continue to glorify your holy name. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.